So I'm going to speak about my experience at the Commonwealth Game and how we did manage the GIS requirement for the games using ArcGIS Online. So to give you some background, as you're aware, the 21st Commonwealth Game was held in the city of Gold Coast back in April. We had 17 nations and almost 7,000 athletes competing in these games. And as you can imagine, managing a complex event as such was really an ambitious task in a city, in a regional city with population of 600,000 people. So as you can imagine, in the large sport events, the management of the event can't be achieved by only one organization, and it's very practical. It's been very practical in the previous major events to actually have a collaborative approach and forming an inter-organizational collaboration to deliver major and mega sport events particularly. However, this is still a challenging task to make sure that the collaboration is productive. Therefore, a lot of time and effort was put into place for planning and managing the Commonwealth Game to make sure that all the organizations that have been involved have a productive and efficient collaboration in place. So to give you some of example of lots of organizations that have been involved, we had Australian Government Major Sporting Events Committee, Gold Coast 2018 Commonwealth Game Corporation or GoldDoc, Office of the Commonwealth Games at the state level, and QPS, QFES, DTMR, and the City of Gold Coast. Each organization had a specific set of rules and responsibilities. For example, GoldDoc was responsible to manage the competition side, for example, accommodating the athletes and also managing the training and the competition. City of Gold Coast, on the other hand, was responsible to manage the uplifting services that was required for the city to deliver. Office of the Commonwealth Game at the state level was responsible to make sure that all these organizations have a collaborative and effective collaboration. So back in 2014, the pre-planning and exploration for how we can better manage the games started and kicked off. However, even from the early stages, we faced some of the challenges in terms of GIS, managing GIS requirements. The traditional approach for Commonwealth Game mapping was basically producing hard copy or PDF maps. For example, this was what has been done in Edinburgh, the previous games, and they had a centralized GIS section responsible to producing PDF maps. The other challenge we had was that GoldDoc, who was responsible for managing the competition, had no in-house GIS capabilities, and basically the awareness around the value of GIS in the organization was really low. On the other hand, there was some GIS data were produced in different formats. We had CAD files, for some data we have PDF and hard copy maps, and then some data were also stored in a spreadsheet and project plans. Therefore, there was lots of duplication efforts and double handling because the information that was produced by some organization, the city had to reproduce it to be able actually to make best of it. And then therefore, at the initial stages, we were receiving lots of requests to produce PDF maps for different functional areas. So all these challenges really highlighted the need to develop a collaborative approach in terms of information sharing for all the spatial data sets. So the management of the games were established as three levels: high-level planning level, coordination level, and local deployment level. A GIS information sharing, a technical working group was established at coordination and local deployment level. So the purpose of this group was to provide a spatial picture of the GC2018 activities, minimizing conflicts and overlaps in planning activities, also improving the data governance and reducing duplication effort. And also we were aiming to improve the interagency information sharing. and increasing data visibility and use. So basically, people won't have to chase data when they need the required information. And through this, we were hoping to decrease the operational risk and uncertainty, and therefore improving the efficiency in the way that the city is delivering its services. And ultimately, understanding the impact of delivering such a big and major event on public domain. This was particularly important for the city of Gold Coast because the city was responsible to assess the land allocation requirement, and we needed to make sure that there is minimum impact and overlapping impact between different activities. So to achieve this, we implemented a 4-phase GIS roadmap. So as I mentioned, we had the exploration and pre-planning phase. During this phase, we had a lot of business engagement. So we basically met with lots of different functional areas within the city to make sure that we have a good understanding of what they're trying to achieve and see how GIS capability can actually improve the way they're operating. And as I mentioned, we had the GIS technical working group established at this stage. We had lots of collaboration, starting the collaboration to form, and then we identified all the internal users who were involved and had an impact on the delivery of the games, and made sure they have the appropriate level of training. Then in the planning phase, a lot of time and effort was put in place for data creation and maintenance of the data. And we also started looking into how we can use GIS in operational time. This was actually quite unique in delivering of the Commonwealth game because in all the previous events, the GIS was only used for planning and pre-planning of the games, and there was no GIS activities during the operational of the Commonwealth game. So during the operational time, we used GIS to provide a common operating picture. We obviously continued data sharing, particularly the data around incident management and emergency management, which helped us to contribute in situation awareness. We also developed a lot of self-sufficient functionalities or application for users to be able actually to consume and use the information by themselves. And we made sure that we have business continuity plan in place, so we have access to all the critical information when needed. And then the legacy benefit was really important for all aspects of the Commonwealth Games, and we also looked into how this collaborative approach will help the city to perform better in the future. And obviously, the stronger collaboration that was formed was the biggest benefit for the city. So as I mentioned, during the exploration and planning phase, there was a lot of time and effort on data creation and understanding the business requirement. So with having a really strong engagement with different functional areas, we were able to develop some data models to make sure that this data will assist the business in managing their activities better. We also did lots of spatial analysis, for example, trying to help the business to understand, for example, how many residents will be impacted by a particular road closure, or we also did lots of analysis on the impact of a potential natural disaster on the impacted zone to understand what would be the impact of a natural disaster on delivering of the game. So the majority of these activities at this stage was happening at ArcGIS desktop. However, the better approach was to use ArcGIS online. So the next stage was to use a platform that is easily available to everyone, internally and externally. And therefore, the GIS technical working group concluded that ArcGIS Online will be the most efficient system for all the games partners to use to share the information. The reason for that was, as you know, ArcGIS Online is a cloud-based system, so it made it really easy to share information not only internally but also externally. And also because through ArcGIS Online we were able to share the information securely, and if possible we could share the information or publicly as well. And also with the field activity support that ArcGIS Online provides, it meant that people could access this information anywhere on any devices. So basically there wasn't any dependencies between the system and the infrastructure that the users are accessing the data from. So to give you a nutshell, these are some of the groups that we use in ArcGIS Online. We not only use the ArcGIS Online to share the information with our other games partner, we also consumed a lot of data from other agencies as well. So basically each organization was responsible to create a secure group in ArcGIS Online. And for example, in City of Gold Coast, we had 3 full-time GIS resources working on this project for more than 2 years. To make sure that all the games partner users have also access to our data set. So we had nearly 300 users across the organization. We had 60 data sets specifically developed for GC2018. And in addition to the data that we specifically developed for Commonwealth Games, we also had 104 GIS data sets made available to public through ArcGIS Online Open Data Portal. This really helped especially our public utility provider to make sure that they have a good understanding of the impact of games on the utility that they are providing. And then we also had access to DTMR and Gold Doc Share Data Group, which contained more than 200 data sets in total. So, as I mentioned before, one of the biggest improvements compared to the previous event in terms of using GIS in delivering Commonwealth Games was using GIS during operational time. So we used GIS to share special data across the games partner and then facilitate the common operating picture. So basically all the operation centers had the same overview of what is happening and all the activities during the games. And by accessing to all the live information, we were able to contribute the situation awareness. And as I mentioned, we provide some self-sufficient functionalities, and users were able to access to the information and to some of these apps that I will go through later, even on the field or when they were within the impact zone of the games. In terms of the GIS resourcing at City Operation Group, we had 1 GIS resource per shift, providing support to the overall system and actioning any ad hoc inquiries that we might have received. And then we had 2 shifts per day, starting from 6 to 10 o'clock at night. So to take you through some of the applications that we developed, can we please switch the screenshot? So this is one of the most commonly used applications that we developed for the games. It was basically a daily run sheet that we use for daily briefing and in the beginning of each shift. The application was built on a story map journals, and the application was divided in multiple sections, each section representing each day during the operational time. And then we had a side panel and a map panel. In the side panel, we had basically consolidated all the information and all the game-related activities that were happening throughout the city during each day. So as you can see, there are also some bookmarks. So people could easily click on each location, and they would have been taken to those specific locations. So we had, for example, what venues are active in that day. We had key road closures and etc. So if I take you to one of the busiest days of the competition, April 10, for example, was one of the busiest time. So you can see that the green dot represents venues that will be active during that day, and then we had different precinct. Each precinct, you could see all the game-related activities happening, and we had all the information that people basically otherwise had to access, look through different spreadsheets and reports. Everything was consolidated into this application, and people were actually using it a lot on the precincts when people were actually managing the games on the ground. As people could actually zoom further in, and they could see all the activities that were happening. So one of the layers that we developed, and it was quite useful for the operational crew, was land allocation layer, or designated use of land. And this layer basically represented all the game-related activities. So everything that was supposed to happen on the ground, we had it mapped in the GIS system. So if you were an operational crew on the ground, you could basically log into the system, and then you could see where everything is happening. And it was in two formats. We had a point layer and a polygon layer developed for users to actually, depending on what scale they are using the application, they can get different level of details. And then again, if you click on each one, we had some information. So what is the designated use of this particular land? And then in some cases, we had, when it was provided to the city, we had a start date of the event, end date of the event, and other information as well. And then you can see that we had all the competition details available. We had also all the festival information. So it wasn't just about the games. As you know, it wasn't just the competition that was happening. There was a lot of community celebration and festival activity was happening across the city as well. So we needed to be aware of where are those activities, what is the time frame, and what is the potential impact on the way we are actually operating. The other application that we use, sorry, can we please go back to the presentation? The other benefit of using ArcGIS Online was that we were able to monitor the usage of this application. So we wanted to make sure that we are actually adding value, and we are not wasting our time with building these applications. So we monitored the usage of some of these applications. And for example, this daily run sheet on average was used 60 times per day. And there were some days, especially at the beginning of the operation time, that some of these applications were used 150 times per day. So we could see that we are actually really contributing to the user awareness. The other application that we use, can we please switch again? Was similar application that we specifically developed for Queen's Baton Relay operational briefing. Again, same concept as how we did the daily run sheet. So in this case, we were particularly focused on the QBR movement and how it's actually traveling across the city. Again, we used a story map template, and each section in the map was representing the route and the station, the stops of the QBR. We had also lots of descriptive information around the type of the baton move travel, the name and duration, the distance that the baton was traveling, and etc. And users were able to actually, again, by using bookmarks in the map, they could just click on the locations, and they would have been taken to that particular route or a stop. So as you navigate through the application, you would have been taken to different routes represented for each day of the QBR movement. The highlight of this application was actually being able to track the convoy, QBR convoy live. So this information was provided to us by Goldoc. So basically they had a GPS system embedded in the convoy, and it was provided to us through a live service. And by embedding the live service into the application, in the operation center, we were able to actually view the live location of the convoy. So it was really helpful for the operation manager to be able to track the convoy and make sure there is no problem on the way that the convoy is moving, and making sure that everything is on track. The last application that we used was a situation awareness application. So as I said, we use GIS to contribute into the situation awareness. It's really important to highlight that GIS can't be just providing situation awareness, it is contributing to the situation awareness. As you can appreciate, there are a lot of activities happening during one day, and a lot of phone calls is happening, a lot of emailing is happening, so it's really hard to encourage everyone to use GIS as one point of truth for the situation awareness. But we were able to actually contribute to the situation awareness. So through this application, we had access to live incident management system from different games partners. So for example, this layer was displaying the live incident management system from DTMR. We also had access to emergency services incident system from QFES and QPS, and we were also providing information, similar information back to other partners. So basically this assisted all the operation centers to have the same common operating picture of all the unexpected activities that might have been happening during the day. We also had access to a time-enabled layer, which basically would have shown us the live activities of the venues. So basically the green will show us that the venue is ingressing, the blue would show at this point of time there is live competition happening in the venue, and then the red will display that there is egress happening at the venue. So having all this information in one application was really helpful in providing the situation awareness, and then we also had access to add any of the BAU layers. For example, if there was an unexpected water leak, for example, we could easily bring up our asset data information to locate those locations. So basically to the last phase of our GIS project for the games, as I said, the focus of this phase was looking into what was the legacy benefit for our organization. Obviously, this assists us in providing some operational saving through improved efficiency. As I mentioned, because we had single point of truth for each data set, and then we had data governance in place through the GIS technical working group, it significantly reduced the double handling work that we had to otherwise go through. So it helped the city to save through improved efficiency. And then there was, throughout this journey, there was some data integrity issues that were flagged because we had lots of crew on the field monitoring the information, making sure everything is on place. So we had lots of missing assets captured through this process. So it really helped us significantly in improving our data integrity. And then a strong collaborative approach that we had, it actually will enhance response and recovery plan during natural disaster events in the future for the city of Gold Coast, because now we have access to live data across all local disaster management group agencies. And some of the developed solutions are used post-games. For example, we had an integrated solution developed for booking banners in impacted zones. It was an integrated solution between ArcGIS Online and smartphones, and the city is still continuing to use that solution. And obviously, we were able to achieve a greater awareness across the organization about the value of the use of GIS. If I want to make some recommendation for the use of GIS in any future events, I would say the first point is focusing on improving user awareness. We are all GIS professional, and we get really excited about what GIS can do, but unfortunately in the event management industry, the value of GIS is not very well recognized. And that was one of the challenges that we had initially, especially different functional areas. If they depends on what had the previous experiences they had. So it's worth to actually expend a lot of time and effort on improving user awareness and basically showcase some of the values that GIS will be able to add to the way they are managing the event. Also, the use of GIS in community engagement. Ta presented some useful application in GIS Hub. It's good that in future event GIS can be used for community engagement. Unfortunately, during the Commonwealth Games, we weren't able to do a lot of community engagement because the concern around releasing the data to the public, basically. And then the other aspect is integration with other systems. We had very small integration with other systems, but in the BAU environment, the City of Gold Coast uses a lot of integration between GIS and other systems, for example, with our asset management system or property services system, and etc. However, for the games, we didn't have any integration between GIS and the project management or project scheduling programs. Therefore, we had to replicate some of the data in GIS again. And then the last item is using real-time technologies and crowdsourced data will be quite useful. And at the end, I would like to thank all the members of the GIS Technical Working Group who contributed to this information sharing and collaborative, very successful collaborative approach. As we had a comment from Office of the Commonwealth Games that this GIS Technical Working Group was the most successful technical working group for the GC 2018. And then I would also like to thank City of Gold Coast Data Management Team and Commonwealth Game Unit for their continuous support. Thank you.